Welcome to another Barn Talk. It's a little rainy here today, but that's okay because we're going to be spending it inside. We're taking those dimensions of the barn that we took last week and turning them into a scaled, finished, existing plan that we can begin designing on. For all you lifelong architects and designers who've been hiding out there, well, stay tuned because we're going to go step by step, showing how to draw up all the different components of this barn that you can use those same skills to create designs for your own home. It's time to get this plan going, but to do that, we need a couple simple materials to work with. Pretty much you should have everything at home. You need the plan. These are the dimensions that we took last weekend, and if you missed the video, feel free to go back and watch. Make sure to like it. You want to have both pens and pencils, and I'll explain more why in a second, but I have my architectural pencil. However, number 2 pencils will work just fine. Nice and sharpened. Make sure they have erasers. Also, black pens. 1 8.5 by 11 paper. And a plastic triangle here. This is my one from architecture school. You don't need anything fancy like this. Frankly, you can use anything for a straight edge that works. You can actually even just use your scale or ruler that you might have to work with, as you can see here. I've used that plenty of times. The one thing that you're not seeing here is tape. I like the flexibility of being able to move the paper around as I work, but if you feel more comfortable taping it down so it's fixed, you're welcome to tape down the corners as well. I'll be using this architectural scale to measure out all the dimensions that we recently took of the barn to create the existing plan. Don't have an architectural scale? No sweat. You can also use a ruler. It works just as well for your measurements. If you've never worked with an architectural scale before, it's really simple to use, and I'm going to run you through that right now. Although I got a kick out of the fact that there's these gouges missing out of it and actually partly cutting off the 1/4 inch scale here. That's because in architectural school, I got lazy. While building models, instead of reaching over for my straight edge to cut things, I just simply used the scale. Over the years, I wound up cutting out little pieces of the scale here. Luckily, never the fingers. So back to what I was saying. For our plan, we're using 1/4 inch scale. So for every foot, that equals 1/4 inch. You start at 0, go over 1/4 inch, that's 1 foot. 2 quarters, 2 feet. 3 quarters, 3 feet. 4 quarters, 4 feet. So if you're using a regular ruler, for every inch, that will be 4 feet. If you're working in 1/8 inch scale, for every inch, that's 8 feet. But you also need to pay special attention because there's lines in between each 1/4 inch. So at 0 over 2, 1/4 inch, there's this line in the middle. That's 1/8 inch. That equals, at 1/4 inch scale, 6 inches. Really important to take note of that because, let's be honest, no dimension ever works out perfectly in simple feet. There's always inches in between. And you're going to have to proportion this out so that it lays out properly. Let's talk quickly about why you want to use both pens and pencils. You always want to start with pencils. Why? Because if you make a mistake, you can erase it. At the end, though, you may want to go back over all your lines with pen so that they can pop on the paper. It actually works out for me because I'm old school. I use trace paper to start designing over the existing plan. You'll want to draw it directly on the plan you've just created. And the pen really comes through nicely. However, it also just dawned on me, you might just take that plan, go photocopy it, and start sketching over it. Before I kick this into full gear, let me just quickly demonstrate how to measure something out. As I mentioned, the width of the barn is 19 feet 9, or almost 20 inches. You're going to come over, as you can see here, 1/4 inches to 18, 19, 19 foot 6, halfway between that is 19 foot 9, and make your mark. Now let's connect the dots. Oh, finally, that guy's done lecturing. We can get going. So let's get started. We're going to work outside in. Start with the outside walls, then to the inside walls, then finally windows, doors, and other details. To do that, we started with our corner point up here that we talked about earlier. Measure over 19 feet 9. To ensure you're creating straight parallel lines, use the straight edge of the paper, come over 3 feet, connect the dots for a straight line down to 38 feet 2 inches. Measure 19 feet 9, multiple points across here, connect it again. You've now created parallel lines in both directions. Now let's kick this into hyperdrive and build out the rest of the plan. I finished laying out the draft plan in pencil. I'm going to lay it out in pen next so that the walls really pop as well as other elements. I included doors, as you can see here, on a 45-degree angle, laid out to open into the room. I also have windows, as well as the line of the roof above creating the covered porch outside. Let's see what it looks like in pen. The plan is now complete. Laid out in pen, it really pops. It's now ready to be used for the next steps, design, which will begin in our next Barn Talk. Thanks for joining Barn Talk today. If you have any questions about laying out your own plan, shoot me a message or leave a comment below. Remember to hit like if you enjoyed this video or share it with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe. And remember to keep following for all things green.